Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for taking a moment to stop by. I want to say today, right off the top, that it's okay to be salty. What do we mean by that? In fact, I want to encourage you today to be salty. Yep, I do. What do I mean by that? Well, just stay with me for a few moments and I'll explain it to you. Well, we've been talking a little bit about here at DBC about community. And this past Sunday, we talked about how sometimes it's awkward and uncomfortable to be in community, to be in relationship, to be a part of something. And so, as we think about that, let's just be honest. Let's be real. Like, relationships are not always easy. Marriage is not always easy. Being a part of a church is not always easy. Going to school is not always easy. Workplaces are not always easy. Anywhere where people come together in community, there can be challenging moments, right? There can be tension. And I guess I was suggesting on Sunday that we need to be prepared if we're going to be in relationship, if we're really going to be true community, we need to be prepared to live in the tension sometimes. And so that's just the reality. For example, let me just give you an example out of my everyday life. I like everyday examples. If you're going to drive, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to live in the tension of driving. Because we all don't drive the same. I mean, I'm the best driver there is, and you probably think you're the best driver there is, but the reality is we're not all the best drivers. And I'm not perfect when I drive. And that was pointed out to me last week when I was driving, and I might have done something. I might have gone through a light when I shouldn't have. I don't know. I'm still confused. I'm still confused as to whether if I was the bad driver or the other person was the bad driver. But here's what I know, that the other person, there was some tension there. How do I know that? Because of the gesture they used when I was behind them. So, you got to be prepared. When you live in community, when other people and you're driving and other people are driving, you got to be prepared. Sometimes there's going to be tension. And that was brought to my attention last week when someone, there was a gesture given to me that I could tell that person wasn't pleased with me. And of course, right away, what happens to me in that situation? Well, what happens to me is I feel my blood pressure going up and I'm thinking, well, I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm sure the other person's thinking they didn't do anything wrong. And here we are, we have this tension. I didn't even know the person, and anyway, that happens, right? In relationships, when you're in relationship, when you're in community, when you live in a community, when you're part of a community, there can be tension. Now, I started by saying that, it's okay to be salty. Now, it's funny because the way kind of we use that word salty and the way you might have even thought I was using that word salty was that, if someone's salty, it's like, let's stay away from them today. If someone's having a bad day at work and someone comes into the office and says, hey, so-and-so's salty today, you're thinking, I don't want to go near them today. They're not happy. Something's happened. There's things going on in their life. That word salty has become slang for like someone's ticked off. So I started Good News Wednesday by saying, hey, it's okay to be salty. You should be salty. Well, I want to flip the meaning on you today. Why? Because I believe we find good news in God's Word. I believe that the Bible teaches us how to be people of good news, to be the light, to be compassionate, to live in relationship well, even when there's tension and conflict and when we're uncomfortable and awkward. I believe the Bible helps us with that because the reality is you're going to experience awkwardness. You're going to experience uncomfortable times. You're going to experience people that get ticked off at you. You're going to get ticked off at people. And when we're uncomfortable, when we're in conflict, I think we need to be salty, but not the way that the world uses the word salty. So I want to turn the definition around a little bit on you today. And I want you to think about it in terms of Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. So that's a part of the Bible. And in this portion of the Bible, I believe that we have some really good advice for when we're living in the tension. So when things are tense, when relationships are hard, when there's conflict, when we're feeling a little awkward and uncomfortable, I believe that this part of the Bible, this one verse, it's literally one sentence I want to share with you today, will help us. So let me read it for you. Colossians chapter 4, verse 6 says, Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Just think about that one more time. Let me read it one more time for you. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. I love the Bible because it uses these images that really help us understand. So when we're talking about being seasoned with salt, we're not talking about being testy or angry or upset or on edge. It's actually just the opposite. I love how the Bible does that kind of, turns things on its head and turns things upside down. And so what I'm suggesting to you today is that you should be salty. And I'm suggesting that the saltiness we just read about actually helps to break through the conflict. It helps in the awkwardness and the uncomfortableness. It takes tension and helps to relieve it. Because the saltiness that's being talked about here is this idea that we need to be full of grace. So we're encouraged to be full of grace. So when we have conversations, we have interactions, when we're driving, when we're at work, when we're at school, we're to be full of grace, seasoned with salt. So grace is this idea that if we extend grace to somebody, it's not because they deserve it. It's because we want to show them blessing and love. So grace has nothing to do with whether someone deserves it or not. In fact, grace is all about a person doesn't deserve it, and you show them love, and you show them kindness anyway. And so we're being told that when we have conversations, and I would extend this to your online conversations, when we're interacting online, when we're interacting with people, we need to be full of grace and seasoned like salt. Seasoned with salt, it says. So why did the writer say seasoned with salt? Well, I got thinking about this. I asked my wife a little bit more about salt and what it does, because I don't cook much. I mean, I bake a mean banana bread, right? Most of you know that by now. And I do put salt, a little bit of salt in the banana bread. Why? Well, salt does two things. It does probably more than two things. But salt does two things. It enhances the flavor. It enhances sweetness. And it also helps to mask or get rid of bitterness and suppresses bitterness. So it enhances sweetness and it suppresses bitterness. So if that's what salt does, if it brings out the flavors, if it brings out good things, if it sweetens things, and if it suppresses, kind of the bitterness and the things that don't taste so good, that's what this Bible verse is all about. It's saying to you and to me, it's saying, okay, be full of grace in all your conversations, all your interactions, all your relationships, be full of grace like salt. Bring sweetness, enhance the flavor, help to suppress bitterness. So if we could do that in all of our interactions, even the tense ones, even the uncomfortable ones, even the awkward ones, if we could be full of grace, seasoned with salt, if we could enhance the good things, the sweetness, the flavor, so that after people have an interaction with us, even if it was a tense interaction, even if it was awkward and uncomfortable, after they have that interaction, we've provided some encouragement. We've enhanced the sweetness. We've enhanced the flavor. We've taken the level of bitterness and anxiety and anger down a notch. That's who we are to be, full of grace as God's people. So I just leave that with you. Be salty today. When you have conversations, may they be seasoned with salt. May they be full of grace. May they be bringing flavor and sweetness and good things to people's lives and helping to suppress and take away the bitterness that maybe some people are experiencing. Because the reality is relationships aren't always easy. Sometimes they're messy. Living in community can be awkward and it can be uncomfortable. But we can still choose today to be full of grace, seasoned with salt. God bless you. Peace be with you. Have a great Good News Wednesday.